the LA Unified School District is banning cell phones during school hours. And it's not just phones, earbuds and smartwatches are also banned. The policy was approved by board members last year. Joining us now is LAUSD board member Nick Melvoin. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we've been talking about this for the better part of a year now. Let's start with why the board approved the ban.
So we now have a decade of research since smartphones have become more ubiquitous on their harmful effects, particularly to kids. Social media use, texting, the forward-facing camera, and we're seeing it in their academics. We're seeing it in their mental health with suicidal ideation and bullying and depression and anxiety, and we're seeing it in their physical health when they're not running around during lunch or recess, but they're on their phones. And so there's, as our job as school board members, we're supposed to keep the students' best interest in mind. And I think when we now have this really incontrovertible body of evidence about how these are harmful for kids, I mean, harmful for all of us, but particularly kids, I thought we needed to take a stand, and that's why I brought a resolution. And, since the board passed my resolution in June, more than half of America's schools now have some form of cell phone ban. This is a real bipartisan issue. Florida's got a ban, California's working on a ban, and I think we're going to start to see more schools that really take this seriously because of the harmful effects to kids and their well-being.
Yeah, a lot of the schools in LAUSD already didn't allow cell phones during school hours. So what's different now that the ban is in effect, and how is it going to be enforced?
So the biggest difference is that this policy goes from bell to bell, if you will. So it's also about lunch and nutrition and walking down the hall. And what we saw, one, was that when it was just classroom time and if it was not being enforced universally, a lot of teachers were really frustrated and they didn't like having to police this behavior. If one teacher was saying no phones and the other was turning the other way, it became difficult. So we wanted to have some universal policy, but also this isn't just about the distraction during class time. This is about those times in between when instead of talking to their peers or getting that exercise, they're down, literally with their head in their hands, just walking the hallway, bumping into each other. So it's more universal, and it's really about saying for those 7 or 8 hours that you're at school, we're going to be cell phone free and engage with one another.
And how will it be enforced if a kid is caught with a phone?
So we've got nearly 1,000 schools in LAUSD, and so schools have the discretion, and over the last few months have been meeting with their teachers and parents and students to figure out the enforcement mechanism. We have pouches that we provided for schools if they want them, those little lock pouches that require a magnet to open. We see a lot of high schools, where kids are so used to being on their phones and it's harder to enforce, doing those pouches. At the elementary school level, it's not as much of a problem, so folks are either saying leave your phones at home or just keep them locked up, turned off in your backpack. But that is also an option for school. If a school has a culture where phones aren't a problem, then you just have to keep it off, not on silent or vibrate, but off in your backpack all day. And then just like any other kind of form of behavior or school policy, there will be consequences for infractions. So a warning, a call to a parent or a guardian, and then the confiscation of the phone. But, what I've been out there talking to parents and to kids about is that this isn't punitive. This isn't about trying to catch someone breaking the rule. This is about realizing the benefits of going phone free. And a lot of our student ambassadors are the one who, after a few weeks of maybe adjusting, have said, this is really, we really appreciate this. Thanks for letting us focus on being kids and our time with one another. So we know that there's going to be challenges when you roll out a policy for a district as large as LA Unified, but we're here to support schools, and we do think ultimately this is something that will be embraced.
Yeah, the shift has been interesting. What do you say, though, to parents who raise privacy concerns, freedom concerns? And a lot of parents also want to be in touch with their kids in case of emergencies, want their kids to be able to reach them. Unfortunately, we see a lot of school shootings in this country and other emergency type situations.
Yeah, so that, as you said, it's such a sad commentary on the state of our kind of gun violence problem and safety in schools. So I hear parents on that concern. Every public safety expert I've spoken to, and we've spoken to many, has said that even though viscerally we want to talk to everyone in emergencies, that those are situations where it's so important actually that adults are taking charge. If there is, God forbid, a school shooting or a fire or an earthquake or a lockdown, having every kid on their phone texting different instructions has led to challenges, whether that's 911 switchboards overwhelmed or roads clogged. So that is where we have emergency plans at every school. Teachers and adults need to handle those, and then they need to communicate immediately with parents and guardians. And then when emergencies are over, we have policies to let students communicate with their with their parents or guardians. I'd also say to parents that, outside of emergencies, we don't want you contacting your kids throughout the day. We're trying to build some independence. They shouldn't be distracted on their phones in school, whether that's in a classroom or walking down the hallway. So every student has a district issued device. They have email on it if you need to reach them, but also call the school. Like when I was in school, sometimes you get a phone call to the office and someone would knock on the teacher's door, hand you a note that your parent's going to be 10 minutes late for pickup. So we're going to go back to some of those old school methods of communication, because we don't want kids in contact with their parents 24/7. We're trying to build some independence here.
All right. Those were the old days. And we should mention before we let you go, there are exceptions for certain students who might need them due to disabilities, et cetera. Thank you so much. We're out of time. We've got to let you go, but we really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.